What's up, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another episode of COASTER-net Uncut. I'm, of course, Andrew Marchek from Chicago, Illinois, joined once again by fellow ride warrior himself, Danny Miller. Danny,
That's right.
going.
Oh, it's going good.
You look
It's
a little blue.
well, yeah, I'm blue because not only because my Christmas lights are on here, but it's snowing
Oh,
outside. So it's
nice.
snowing. We've got a couple inches of snow. I've already shoveled once today. Probably have to
Oh,
do it again before the end of the night here. So
I can't even imagine that. We haven't even we've seen a little flurries here, not a whole bunch of going on there though. But we are here tonight to discuss something a little bit more fun than blue and snow. We're here
yes.
to discuss some new ride announcements. Finally, we finally got some final words. We thought things were coming. We knew a lot of things were coming. And then a few surprises here as well. Now we had already done an uncut a few months ago where we talked about Big Bear Mountain, Dark
Yep.
Coaster, Zambezi Zinger, and talked a little bit of RMC Wildcat, but now we officially have an announcement from Hershey Park about that. We got the official announcement from SeaWorld about their surf coaster, and we got a surprise announcement from Six Flags Fiesta Texas out of
Just this weekend we
yeah,
did.
just this weekend. So we're going to talk about all three of these new rides. I don't think there's a whole lot of other stuff going on, right? Is there?
No, I'm just looking here. Trying to see here if I thought I had a list of everything, but for the most part, yeah. I mean, we talked a little bit about some of these rides, um, farther back as far as our what the new rides were coming up and everything. So I thought I had a ranking of mine, but I guess maybe I didn't. But it in any event, we talked about Big Bear Mountain and Zambezi Zinger, as you had mentioned, and we've got a couple new ones to talk about, and I would say two of them are maybe the two best rides. We even talked about Dark Coaster. That one should be interesting, but maybe the two most prolific rides or
And
headlining attractions.
both of them we highly suspected were coming, and we
Well,
think
in the surf coaster, we kind of had an announcement about some time ago, but we didn't have a lot of details. Like we didn't have a bunch of stats. We didn't really know what the trains were going to look like exactly. We didn't have a name or a logo, and now we actually have a name and a logo to talk about. So the surf coasters was kind of already out there, but maybe we ought to start with that since we've already talked
yeah.
about it a little bit in the past. But Pipeline is the name of the surf coaster that B&M is building at SeaWorld Orlando.
That are
Um,
already have been building. It's already gone, vertical for
yeah, I mean, we could be looking at an opening, maybe around the time that Icebreaker opened last year, mid to late February. I don't know what their plans are as far as an opening goes, but you would think spring break if they could, right?
you would think so. You because that seems to be the time that you start doing your media blitz, get people ready. I've all and Bush has always been a big proponent of, you know, March, April doing big openings so that people when they're, thinking about their summer trips, think about where they're gonna go.
Yeah.
Hey, you know what? That looks like it's kind of exciting. I want to go to SeaWorld Orlando to go ride that. I'm gonna put that on the list of places. Especially if you're booking a big Disney trip, we all know you can't do that the night before. You got to do that a few
No,
months in advance.
you got to
So
do it at least 60 days out if you want any chance of riding anything.
yeah, absolutely. So with that, you got this is that time frame. So I think we saw the patents, we saw some technical stuff about the surf coaster. When you finally saw the video, what was your initial impression of it?
Well, so there's a couple of things. Um, the first is that, we kind of all knew that the surf coaster was going to be a stand-up coaster, right?
Yeah,
That's no surprise. It looks like they've got some sort of spring suspension system in
yeah,
the seats and the chairs, which the first generation definitely missed. It kind of locked in there and wouldn't move, which was part of the painful part of it, right?
yes.
I would like to think that perhaps this will be more comfortable in that regard. Now it can't be too springy. because when you go over an airtime hill, you don't want the seat to lift you up off of the floor by your crotch, right? That would be even less comfortable.
Yeah.
But you want it to give way when you are going into a turn or to the bottom of a hill where there's G forces. So I'm kind of hoping maybe there's a way where it locks at like a maximum height. And then as you go into the valleys, it'll cushion. And then when it comes back up, it doesn't like springboard past where you
Yeah.
want it to be. So I'm kind of hoping maybe it does something like that. But it looks like, I mean, the key to riding a stand-up coaster comfortably has always been to keep your knees bent, and making sure that that seat is low enough so that you can keep your knees bent. And then
Yeah.
they're not super uncomfortable. They're not the most comfortable thing in the world. I don't think anybody would claim that they are, especially not anyone who is male. But I mean, there are worse things in the world than the stand-up coaster if you knew how to set the seat so that it wasn't just,
Yeah.
a crotch punch all the time every time you went into a loop. Um, so that was
Do
the
you
first thing that
like
struck
do you
me.
think with the seats, do you think you're gonna be able to like okay, so the ride's gonna dictate like how it bounces by itself, but do you think you're gonna be able to like do your own like do you think you're gonna be able to like push up out of it? Like I just don't understand like how it's and you can't get that from
I don't
the
know.
animation. Like are you gonna be able to like push up like if it's going down, can you like go up higher yourself? Can you like bounce it yourself? Is it gonna be like I don't know, it's like a spinning teacup where you kind of control it a little bit. I just don't know like what that is yet. And I think until we actually see
I
this
think
might
we
even
got
be
to
one
ride it or
you have
know
to write
people who
it.
do ride it and get like some primary sources here,
Like
right?
I don't even think seeing test runs you're going to be able to see what it's actually doing because the test runs with the dummies they're all going to be doing the same thing. So like the actual experience I don't think you're going to be able to get until you actually write it,
Mm-hmm.
which like because B&M's always real close to the vest with their stuff, but we see other places do like prototypes and test runs and test this and test that where on like mini tracks like we saw the Axis coaster, we saw the single rails before they ever came out. Like do you think B&M's done that or do you think this is a purely conceptual let's try this on the computer and see what it turns out to be?
I'm not sure.
Like you would think you would have to build the seat at some point, right?
Oh,
Like
yeah, absolutely. I mean, at the end of the day, we know B&M. B&M's not going to build anything that's not going to work.
yeah.
I mean, let's be honest. The B&M stand-up coasters have a bad rap. I, I would say, I don't know. The standing up and straddling the bicycle seat has never been the biggest issue for me. But again, I'm also really good at bending my knees and making it look like they're not bent so that I can push the seat down so that it's not in an uncomfortable spot. The Togo ones were more difficult to do that ones. They were far more painful.
Yeah.
The B&M stand-ups I've never really had a problem with. I love Riddler's Revenge. I really, really enjoy Georgia Scorcher. Green Lantern's not offensive. The older ones I think are worse, even though they're smaller, just because they're older and rougher. Um, you know, man, I never had a tremendous problem with Mantis either, to be completely honest with you. I mean, Mantis was fine. A little headbangy maybe, in a spot or two. But they've all kind of been like that, except for really Riddler and Scorcher. I think those two are phenomenal. But I mean, I don't think B&M's going to put out anything that's like overly offensive, right? I mean, that's just not what they do. So I'm not really worried about that. I think most people are of the opinion that this will be an improvement over the old stand-up coaster, and if that's the case, then I didn't really have too much of a problem with those to begin with. I know I'm in the minority there, but I'm not really too concerned about this. The other thing that struck me here is that I thought surfing that you'd be, and a lot of people have
Yeah.
said this, you would be sideways, right?
Yeah.
So I thought maybe you would be back to back, um, and that you would be like facing the sides in open air and you would have to turn. But I
Yeah.
can also understand the risk of having people standing sideways and having people go through, over hills and through turns and through corkscrews, looking to the side like this and putting like your neck in a compromising position,
Yeah.
you know, and that's, the backwards rides are interesting because you're not going to do this. I know some people do this, but less people do that. But by standing them sideways and advertising it as the surf coaster, you're almost encouraging people to do this or do this. And I don't know. I wouldn't want to be riding a roller coaster looking to the side too much. So
I
I
you know,
can
and
understand
that's the
why they
thing
didn't
is
do
like that's why it was interesting when they called it when the people were calling it a surf coaster to begin with. And I said, well, that's just weird to be in that position. And then when it came out like this, that well, it has nothing to do with that. Then I thought, oh, okay, well, that makes a little bit more sense. They're gonna theme it out like a surfboard, okay, whatever.
And
The
from that perspective, they've done a nice job here, I think.
Yeah, and I feel like the other thing that's really going to differentiate this um, from the stand-ups is it's not doing maneuvers like a traditional stand-up would do with corkscrews and big inversions, and it almost seemed like especially when you got to like Mantis and then later on, like, oh, we're trying to set the inversion record for how high the inversion can be when you're on a stand-up.
Right.
And it just like those, like I get the idea, okay, we want a record, and it just happened to be, oh, let's do this. But this seems more tame almost.
Yeah, it looks like more sweeping turns as
Yeah.
opposed to abrupt and violent directional changes, more graceful elements. It looks like, is there just the one inversion there?
It from what, because like in the video you can kind of see the one overview of the whole thing, so you see the launch with the big sweeping turn, and then it turns into just a single like almost like an Immelman type inversion, not really, but kind of.
Yeah, it almost looks like an oversized corkscrew, kind of like what
Yeah, like
Gatekeeper
just a single
has.
one though, so you're just inverting once, and then you do these sweeping turns again,
Yeah,
with some airtime in the middle. So I think maybe B&M's also learned that, hey, if we're going to be in this position, we need to do different types of maneuvers in this position, and
right.
in those high G-force like maneuvers that just drilled you into the bottom of the floor. Maybe we shouldn't be doing that.
Well, and that's where Riddler's Revenge. That's to me where Riddler's Revenge shines because even though Riddler's Revenge is huge and massive, so are all of the other elements that follow it. The big loops, the big dive loops, the very drawn out turns and corkscrews. Um, Riddler's Revenge doesn't have the tight compact parts of the ride like Green Lantern and Mantis and the smaller ones, and even Scorcher to a degree uh had. It's very drawn out and very graceful is almost the word in terms of
Yeah.
the way the elements are shaped, and does not strain your legs like a lot of the others do. So I think they were kind of going for like a Riddler's Revenge type of vibe here with the elements being very drawn out, which is probably good because if the ride's not comfortable in terms of the position, then they don't have to do another one of these, and this one isn't so unbearable.
Yeah.
And if it does work, then maybe they can kick it up a notch with the next one.
Yeah, and you kind of learn from it. So like and like I said, this is definitely one where I think you're gonna have to wait to ride it because like I said, it's the first of its kind. There's not a whole lot of comparison out there, and the comparisons we do have are not very good. So some
Well,
people,
technology has come a long way since the first one of these, 30 years ago.
yeah, absolutely. So and then what we should also mention, the same chain, SeaWorld San Diego announced a new coaster as well, called Arctic Rescue. In their promo video, they used a whole lot of footage from Wavebreaker. So
Okay.
we assume it's going to be very much the same as Wavebreaker. This one's not
Instead of
as,
jet skis, they're ski doos.
yeah. So they're like, same jet, and it looks like they've already built a whole lot of it. It doesn't look like it's over water a whole lot. They did post a YouTube video, an insider look on it with some construction progress, but does not look like it's over water, just a tad bit of it. So that's why they had to do the snow theme as opposed to the water theme, which makes more sense.
Right.
Um, but I'm assuming much of the same of what you got from Wave Breaker is what you're going to get here.
Right.
Which was a nice ride. Wave Breaker is a nice ride. I don't think anyone's like going home and saying, "Hey, I want to go buy a ticket because of that." But when you're there, it's a nice little family ride, nice little step up for the kids to ride something a little bit bigger. And I would give it gave me, Wave Breaker. Have you been on Wave Breaker? I don't know.
I have.
Okay.
I have. I enjoyed Wavebreaker, and I mean, we went to California back in March, so and we went to SeaWorld San Diego and we rode Emperor. And I'm not sitting here saying, "Ah, crap, we should have waited another year because
Yeah.
of this ride." It's one of those. I'll ride it when I get to it.
Yeah, absolutely. So like, and I've actually, that's one of the few parks I've never been to is SeaWorld San Diego. So like now I'm at the point, maybe I should just keep waiting because they keep pouring roller coasters into that park. Why
Oh
go
man, could,
now?
could you imagine how many roller coasters we would have if SeaWorld bought Cedar Fair?
Oh my goodness. I don't even want to talk about it. So
Um,
which one you want to talk about next? The Hershey Park coaster, or what was the other one we're talking about? Oh, let's talk about Fiesta Texas because we were talking about family coasters and Fiesta Texas all of a sudden this weekend decided to interesting.
they're getting that Skyline Attractions Piscetti Bowl, the little racing one.
Yes. So they
Um,
are doing a new coaster, which they kind of started teasing it a little bit of time last week or so, maybe a little earlier than that.
yeah,
But they just announced it this past weekend, announced two attractions, a new kids area in their water park, which is kind of cool. Your basic kids, little tornado slides and stuff. So kind of cool, a little bit uniqueness there. They haven't named the coaster, so we don't know what it's being called yet, but it's the
they said
world's
we'll get that
first.
after the start of the new year. So
Yeah, the world's first. Of course, we do need that in our announcement. The world's first single rail. Not done yet. Family. Not done yet. Racing coaster. Yes, there we go. That gives us enough adjectives to make it a world's
two
first.
coasters, one rail,
So,
lots of lights.
but it looks like a very simple. You said Skyline's doing it. 79 feet tall, 162 feet something. I don't know what the hell that means. In size, that's how much. Like, what does it even mean? 162 feet on their graph? Just how long it is, I guess. Like that's not a length. It is two separate tracks though, so it's not a Mobius loop. It's not like West Coast
Oh
Racer.
no, the 79 by 162 is the footprint of land that it fits
Yes,
in.
it's just. Is that the footprint, or is it 79 foot
No,
tall?
that's the footprint. So it's like the whole footprint of the ride is 162 feet long and 79 feet wide.
Okay, that's a weird thing to announce,
But
but
it's Texas's only racing coaster, Andy. And it's got weld-free track. So
that's mind blowing. That's the only
this
racing
it's
coaster.
like they took the Skyline Attraction sales brochure and just put the Fiesta Texas logo on it because guests don't care about the footprint. They don't care that the track's weld free. like, like what? It's like they didn't even make their own image for it. It's kind of funny.
It's kind of
It does
funny, and
look kind
who
of fun
knows if
though.
those are the right colors. But we do know it's two separate credits, right? Because it's two very unique tracks.
It looks like it. It doesn't
Um,
look like they cross over. So yeah, it looks like
no,
we.
it's not even like okay, like some people count the racers as two because they split and go different ways, or they do our two different tracks. I've never been one for counting racing coasters, but if they're two unique track layouts, I usually do count them as two different ones. So like dueling
This certainly
dragons,
is that.
lightning racer is one I count as two. But here this is definitely that. I don't know if there's much else to say about it besides it goes up real. It's a family coaster. It's definitely a family coaster. I'm thinking this is the new Scooby-Doo Ghoster coaster type concept, right? Like a roller
Probably.
skater. Like this is. I'm thinking it's not going to be that huge.
And they're putting those cool LED lights on it too, it looks like. Where they're
That's
putting the
always
LED they're putting the I saw someone post about that this week that they're putting LED lights all along the thing, all along the lights, kind of
hey,
like
jazz
so
it up.
Yeah.
Jason's real nice.
And some would argue, not me, because I really like it, but there's some people who watch the show who would argue that Jersey Devil was the world's first single rail family coaster. So, anyways,
Oh, whoa.
some people,
Oh.
not me, love Jersey
But
Devil.
now here's the question. Does this mean that RMC and Six Flags are on the outs with one another? That they're building, or is single rails just the thing now? Like I don't know.
I don't know. I
Like
don't know.
they just built Jersey Devil. They're building Wonder Woman, so maybe RMC's got too much to do, and they said, "Hey, let's put this."
Maybe. I mean, they built Wonder Woman at Magic Mountain
Yeah.
last year, so I don't
So
know.
like I don't know. Like who knows what's going on there. So the
Speaking
last
of RMC, let's talk about a good ride.
yeah,
Um,
speaking of RMCs, we're just
so
segueing awesome into new segments lately. So
we really are.
yeah,
It's like you take some time off, and we just haven't lost it at all here.
no, not at all.
So we've got Wildcat's Revenge, which is, as we thought, the RMC refurbishment and redo the Iron Horse treatment of the Hershey Park Wildcat. And Andy, I think we have to have an apology line start here, even though no one was really criticizing our hot takes. But I recall
You were
us
pretty spot on with this
I
one.
recall us saying that we thought this could be a mid-range in terms of height and length. We kind of said maybe 150-foot range because we've got some smaller ones that are around, 95 to 110 feet, Storm Chaser, Twisted Timbers, Untamed. Then you've got some big ones like Steel Vengeance, Zadra, Iron Gwazi, and New Texas Giants in that 150-foot range. But other than that, there aren't too many that are in that range. And lo and behold, here's what we've got. We've got Wildcat's Revenge, 140 feet tall. We've got 62 miles per hour, just over 3,500 feet long. We've got 4 inversions. We've got an 81-degree first drop, about 2.5 minutes ride time. We've got the world's largest step up under flip, which is that same element that we see on rides like Joker, I think was the first one.
Yeah.
Untamed has one, which is very good, and Twisted Cyclone has a damn good one as well. So that step up under flip is a pretty darn good element for me. It's got a 0G stall, it's got a 0G roll. It's got some of your overbanks. Looks like it has a little bit of a wave turn. Has a couple of airtime hills. Looks like it has sort of like a double dip airtime hill in there. Might have a couple of small hills at the end. I haven't really seen a full blown POV from what I've seen. Just a lot of the spliced
Yeah.
together bits of the POV. But so I wanna make a few comparisons right here because I think the reception to this announcement to me was surprisingly a little bit lukewarm. Um,
Really?
yeah,
Like
I
what
saw some.
were people expecting like them to build a huge lift on this and make it a
No,
ton better?
I think they were disappointed because there wasn't like a ton of airtime moments from
Oh,
what they were. And if there's anything RMC has taught us over the last decade, it's that they can put airtime into elements
that
where
you
we
wouldn't
didn't think
expect them to be.
we didn't think there ought to be any.
Yeah.
Like that overbanked high speed turn on Iron Gwazi doesn't look like at all there ought to be airtime there, and there's airtime coming out of it. So keep the faith with that. But I want to compare this ride to Twisted Timbers and Untamed because those are two rides that I think most people would agree are top 5 RMCs. I think we've got Steel Vengeance, Iron Gwazi, Zadra, if you've ridden it, is up there. Certainly Untamed, if you've ridden it, is there. And I think, Twisted Timbers, Iron Rattler, Twisted Cyclone, I think those are like the other ones that are the candidates for maybe filling out that top 5 or 6 of the Iron Horses, right? I mean,
Mhm.
so Untamed and Twisted Timbers. Twisted Timbers is 111 feet tall. Untamed is 120 feet. Wildcat's Revenge 140 feet. So we've got more height out of
Yeah.
Wildcat's Revenge. Lengthwise, Twisted Timbers is 3361. Untamed is 3560 and Wildcat's Revenge is 3510. So we're looking at about the length of Untamed.
Yeah.
Speed 54 miles per hour for Twisted Timbers, 57 miles per hour for Untamed, 62 for Wildcat's Revenge. So we're a little bit faster. Twisted Timbers, we have 3 inversions. We have 4 on Untamed, and we have 4 on Wildcat's Revenge. And then ride time, I don't see it on
Ride
here
time is
for.
2 minutes and 36 seconds for
Okay,
Wildcat
compared to
Revenge.
Untamed, which is a little bit under 2 minutes, and Twisted Timbers, it doesn't look like we have it, but it's a little bit under 2 minutes as well, I think. So when you think about this on paper, and on paper is certainly not the only way to decide, what rides are good and what rides are not, but on paper, Wildcat's Revenge should be really kind of in that, at least in that category of Twisted Timbers and Untamed. I think it should at least be in that discussion. It has stats on all of them. So now it's just whether or not the elements actually perform. And there's not too many RMCs where the elements don't perform. And I think you and I generally like the big ones better. I mean, Steel Vengeance, Iron Rattler, Iron Gwazi, those are all really, really good. Um, and
But
this one
I
has a
hate
nice
to be a
variety.
broken record, Danny. But what's the one thing that we always say about RMCs? If they can maintain their speed, they'll be
Yep,
fine. And the ones I don't like are the ones that slow down at the end. And
yep.
you can add in um your
Storm
wicked
Chaser, Wicked
cyclones, your
Cyclone.
storm chasers, even Joker to some extent.
Yep.
Like the ones that I have at the bottom of my list are the ones that don't maintain their speed throughout the whole ride. So here, them starting off at a faster speed than most of them at 62, is that your top speed? Them having that as their top speed makes me a lot more excited about the end parts of these rides, because even if you lose some of it, you're going to lose obviously a lot of it. That maintaining a fast speed at the end is always the key to me. And watching the cutscenes in this, like I'm thinking, like, is this gonna, like, you really love Untamed? Twisted Timbers is a really fantastic roller coaster. If this even comes close to either of those two things, that's a huge win. I
I agree.
I think moderately speaking, if this comes, I'm going to think that this is probably going to be in the realm of like a Twisted Cyclone, and I'm hoping that it's better than Twisted Cyclone. That's a win. So if you come anywhere in between, Twisted Timbers and Twisted Cyclone, I think that's exactly what this ride should be.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not expecting this ride to be Steel Vengeance or Iron Gwazi. Absolutely.
No,
I mean, it's not going to be. After that, you're talking about, I'm not even really expecting it to be an Untamed either. It doesn't look like it has the elements to do that. But after that, I mean, I think it's got potential to be a top 5 RMC. I'll ride Zadra next year, hopefully. So I'll get to be able to speak on that. But in terms of Twisted Timbers, Twisted Cyclone, Wicked Cyclone, Joker, Iron Rattler, New Texas Giant, that next class that's not in that elite tier for many people. This one looks like it ought to be, if it is in that tier, close to the top of that tier. It certainly
yeah,
has the stats to be. So to me, I think I'm cautiously maybe wagering that this could be a borderline top 5 RMC. I mean, remember Wildcat's up on that hill a little bit, so the step up under flip and the first drop's going to be up on the hill, and then the end of the ride is back where it's a little bit lower to the ground. So in theory, they shouldn't have problems having speed towards the end of that ride, and then maybe you just lose your speed at the end when you come up to the brake run. So in theory, they shouldn't have problems maintaining the speed. And this has the newer generation of cars on it, which at least in our experience seems to do that a little bit
maintain
better.
the speed very well.
um yeah, I mean, Steel Vengeance, Untamed, Twisted Timbers, for sure, they, Iron Gwazi, they maintain their speed very well. So I would like to think that this would do the same. So for all of those reasons, I am slightly cautiously optimistic, but very optimistic that Wildcat's Revenge could indeed be a borderline top 5 RMC. I really think it could be. I think it has a nice variety of elements. Maybe it doesn't have some of the straight up airtime hills that people are maybe always looking forward to, but it's, there's airtime on these rides. I mean, those step up under flips, they have airtime when you get flipped upside down. Steel Vengeance has a lot of pop when you go into its little underflip type element. It's followed up by a big airtime hill. There's a little bit of a double up into the one overbank turn. It's got a 0G stall. Those have airtime. It's got this little crossover hill, which is this little double dip where it like goes up and then does like a flat turn, and then that could have a lot of airtime, especially in the back. Um, the 0G roll looks like it kind of rolls late, so it might have a lot of throw to it. So that could be really really good. I'm really not I'm not concerned about there not being airtime on this ride like some people for some reason seem to be. Some people seem to be concerned that there's not going to be enough airtime on this ride, but I don't that's not really a concern of mine, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and I'm this is exactly what this park needs. Like it needs like Wildcat was terrible. Like was a terrible roller coaster. Like people
Yeah.
walking by it don't even want to ride it. And now you've changed that location in the park where I feel like that Wildcat area was always kind of like the dead part of the park.
Always.
Now you're naturally going to bring people back there because there's going to be a fantastic ride over there. So
Skyrush and Candemonium, having your two big heavy hitters at the front of the park, and then it was really an imbalance in the way that park was set up.
yeah, and this is going to change that. Also, did you get? I don't know. I was watching their intro video and I got heavy, like beat the beast, like feelings from this.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It really did feel that way.
Like I'm like, what is this? The Beat the Beast commercial that we're bringing back? Beat the Beast all of a sudden? I don't know.
Oh my
It was
God.
just strange to me. So
No, you're
yeah,
right.
like it was like, oh, what is going on here? Like I just watched it again. I'm like, oh, I feel like I'm watching Beat the Beast all over again. But here we are. So yeah, I'm excited for this ride. I think this is a fantastic addition. Let the haters hate as they always do, because at some point it just like you can't make everyone happy. Like it's just not gonna happen. So
No, that's exactly it. And I'm trying to find trying to find to see if there's been an official POV, and I haven't found one. I'm looking at various Planet Coaster and No Limits ones. Here's a decent because the ending of this ride is a little bit interesting. There's like a double up into the one overbank before the 0G stall looks like it's going to have a little bit of a wave turn type of feel to it, where it's not just a straight up turn. It'll actually have like um more of an overbank, more of a wave turn. Well, maybe they both have wave turns. I don't know. At least one of those looks like it's going to be a wave turn. The 0G roll looks like it rolls late, like as it starts to crest the hill, so it might actually like have a lot more throw in it. And it looks like there's maybe an airtime hill or two at the end. So, that's kind of cool. So I don't know. I don't buy into the whole this ride's not going to have airtime. Uh, Again, if there's anything that we've learned um, with RMC, it's that they find ways to put airtime in spots where it looks like there shouldn't be any.
right.
I mean, geez, how many of those little overbank turns on Steel Vengeance had some falling out of the seat action there?
Yeah.
Steel Vengeance didn't need any more airtime, but they found a way to put some in there. So I'm really excited about this one. I don't think it would surprise anyone to hear that this certainly is my most anticipated ride for the upcoming year. I renewed my season pass in anticipation of this ride announcement, knowing that it was coming. So I will, especially with the big Europe trip coming up and spending a lot of time on that, I will find myself at Hershey Park a lot this coming season, probably more often than ever. Even if it's just to wait in an hour plus long line to ride this a bunch of times. Gonna cash in my season pass holder first rides, hopefully. Who knows? Maybe even a media day if we can figure out a way to get an invite for that one. But
Who
very, very,
knows?
very, very excited for this one. And
Uh-oh.
I broke and I got the Wildcat piece of wood.
Oh my God, you did.
I
Look at
did.
that. And
So
it's actually a nicer one too. Look at that.
So it's much bigger than the Steel Vengeance ones. It's very heavy. So it's a piece of the wood, and then it is a piece of the steel track bolted to it.
Oh,
And unlike the Son of Beast wood and the Steel Vengeance wood, the steel track here is coated in some sort of like coating so that it doesn't rust, and then that's what it's engraved into.
that's really cool. I'm not gonna
So,
lie.
I
That
mean, arguably, and I gotta shout out to my buddy Joe Watkins when they posted that these were for sale. I said to my buddies who live out in Hershey that I go to hockey. So my buddy Joe is in the area, and I gotta shout out to him for heading over to the park and grabbing that for me. Otherwise, I wouldn't have one because they were in person only. So so thanks to him for getting that for me. Certainly one of the coolest ride pieces I have in my growing collection of ride pieces. But they did a really nice they did a really nice job with those. So well done to Hershey Park. Doing the engraving of the old Wildcat logo and numbering everything.
that's
They
really cool.
and it does come with a certificate like all the other ones do. So they did a real nice job there. So but yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I can't wait to spend more time at Hershey Park this year, especially with that ride in the back. And if the ride's super busy and super long, okay, the consolation prize is you get to ride Candemonium and Sky Rush a bunch. So I mean, there's worse ways to spend your day.
So as always, thank you for joining us here on COASTER-net Uncut. I'm of course Andrew Barchak from Chicago, Illinois.
Danny Miller from Binghamton, New York.
And don't forget, vote in the Thrilling 32
That's
Ride
right.
Warrior Choice Awards. Vote now. Voting is open, so get your
Yes.
votes in.
Thrilling32.com.
Yep. So see you next time, guys. Right on, Ride
Thank you
Warriors.
guys. Thanks, guys. See ya.